Thank you so much for joining us again on Ondo Decides 2024. So thank you so much for being with us. I have with me here in the studio Dr. Delisha Teolu, political analyst. Thank you for being with us at this time.
Good afternoon, viewers.
Okay, all right. So election is still underway right now in Ondo State, and then we are seeing a little development because news reaching us now is that there was gunshot at some border areas which were open. Well, it's not going to be as alarming as it sounds already, and we hope that security agencies will be there to resolve some of these issues. But before we move further, let us go on the break, and when we return, we will continue discussions and analysis. Stay with us. For joining us at this time. If you're just joining us, this is Under the Side 2024, and we have our correspondent on standby to give us update on what's currently going on in Ondo State. We have Lebby Joseph on standby. Hello, good afternoon. Could you please bring us up to date on what's going on over there at your hand?
All right. I'm back. Where I am now is known as Specific Agricultural Farming School in Drummond. And this is the collection center, which has about 2 polling units. Today, it is very clear that there is no turnout for those who don't to Akure, turnout of voters. And when I discovered that because of the attack, that people fail from coming to exercise their civic rights. But by and large, it has been people that is learning aside from Idore, where we learned that there's a place called Ofosu. They said electoral materials did not get to the wards, the unit 01 there. Enough. Come out like that the intellectual. So we don't really know what happened in that area for now. And in the body itself, there's a place called, to understand that there was some attack. And there was a report of one of the flashpoints because the deputy governor of the PD from there and the state chairman of APC from there. That is why it's one of the hottest points.
Okay, all right. We got news that say cut with bags of money trying to bribe the electorate. Did you catch whiff of that? Could you bring us up to date on that development? Is this something that happened around places that you visited?
That yes, exactly happened at this place. I'm standing. A party agent was arrested with 2 bags of I heard that room was so bold, just came in and started shouting the located and cooked soup, which of catch you cook and this that the guy as he that but actually there was 3 vote buying 10,000 and so on. Even if you know where I was, I had them say, "We are go and vote and collect, come and collect it." Just like that. And you know, the issue of food buying here from Ondo State, it was originated there. So it has into the system.
Okay, all right. Hopefully, we hope to be able to link up with David Joseph once more. But seems the network is not so friendly with us at this moment. Thank you so much, David Joseph, for bringing us up to date with what's going on over there at your end in Ondo State. And now, Dr. Shetolu, once again, we have incident of vote buying. So it seems as if the sensitization that EFCC was doing this morning is not completely out of place. If we still have vote buying still taking place, and quite sadly, not even so subtle. It was something that was done that they were easily apprehended. Well, what do you have to say about that?
What should be the business of the EFCC? You know, shouldn't be the business of the EFCC concerning election. The Independent Economic Financial Crime Commission should not be involved in the election. It could do subtle covert investigations, but I did expect that the Financial Crime Commission should be visible on election date. That will not make a substantial difference. You know, it should not. I guess in the morning session you raised the question about political education. I rather call it political education of voters. The question is whose responsibility should it be? There's been debate about whose business should be political education. Is it the political? Should it be for the political party or the Independent Electoral Commission? My intervention with this, it should be the business of the political party. You know, there are 4 major functions of a political party. You know, interest articulation, interest aggregation, you know, political socialization, you know, political education, okay, you know, and leadership recruitment, etc., etc. So it should be the business of the political party to educate the voters on when to vote, how to vote, about the symbol of political parties, and to educate on voting procedure such that the the ballot papers are not voided, etc., etc. Okay. The political party in some societies, particularly illiberal democracies, do more than political education. It does political conscientization. Somehow we can differentiate political education and conscientization. But Nigeria, it's a growing democracy. I'm also Nigeria is into popular democracy of the Anglo-Saxon type. So the aspect of political conscientization has not been very effective. So the role of the independent economic financial crime commissioner by educating and the rest, I think it's rather belated. Even if the Financial Crime Commission should be involved, in such to discourage, to dissuade and all that, it should not be on election day. Okay? My colleague, the Leonard Sig, made the point earlier, ditto Professor Rav Akin Fele, that vote buying would likely have occurred pre-election. It will not likely happen on election day, and if it does happen, the scale will rather be low. So even if one or two individuals are caught with bags and all that, if you ask me, it's a tip of the iceberg. A lot will have happened behind the curtains. A lot will have happened behind the curtains. How do we deal with the greater picture? That is the challenge. How do we deal with the greater picture? I made the point that, let me draw a scenario so that I did not appear to be strictly theoretical.
Okay.
Because I had also been involved in politics at some point in time. You imagine a candidate, who had a humble background, who lived in a room, in a humble neighborhood, who aspired to be a councillor and who got the ticket of a major political party. And in a year or thereabout, his social standing has been transformed. So that, and you know what happened? He had to relocate. He actually got the ticket and he won the election. Well, isn't it contradictory that a candidate who won the election to represent, his constituency, chose to relocate to a different constituency, more attractive, maybe more urbanized constituency, etc., etc. So we're not dealing with the substantive issues, and these are some of the issues we should be dealing with, in the context of the national question whenever it is convenient. Nigeria is immersed in structural imbalances and contradictions, and these contradictions, the contradictions are political, economic, fiscal, social, legal, etc. in nature. There's a whole gamut of contradictions that Nigeria is contending with, and it reflects in every facet of national life. This process is a pseudo democracy. And what we appear to be practicing, it's popular democracy rather than liberal democracy. Well, we're not there in terms of liberal democracy, because there are the major indices or categories of a liberal democracy, and we're far from it. Most of the elections in Nigeria are characterized by violence, are characterized by rigging. There's strong deficit for the electoral commission. The police is politicized, and so on and so forth. So what democracy are we referring to? What democracy? Whose democracy? Whose democracy? When politics has been heavily monetized, you know, and the money bags dominate on who gets what, when, and how, you know. And you know, there's this trend in recent elections. A week or two pre-elections, there are media reports that there are often huge withdrawals in the major banks. So who does the withdrawal? The political parties, chief. And why do they? The withdrawals are meant to fund, in quote, elections. Okay? The withdrawals are not meant to fund structures, strengthen structures of political parties, build institutions of political parties, etc. No. The funds are meant to subvert the political process and to alter, you know, to alter political thinking, you know, and to sway voters on the side of whichever party is the highest or the highest spender, you know. That is a perplexing level Nigeria has descended. I am not as optimistic as you are. I am not. I do not share your optimism. I mean, these are there are trajectories on the ground, and these trajectories does not give me the confidence that that the El Dorado will be sometime soon. Distant. It's a distant. I see a distant El Dorado, if there is any.
But you mentioned the popular democracy and the liberal democracy. What are the difference? What makes liberal democracy how it is, and then the popular democracy what it is? And maybe perhaps we could be a step closer to also imbibing the liberal democracy you advocated.
Popular democracy, the presumption about popular democracy is there are elections, okay, and whichever candidate wins the majority is deemed to be the popular candidate, and whoever is deemed to be the winner. So that is the aspect of popular democracy. Okay? So popular democracy is not liberal democracy. You know, there are presumptions of liberal democracy. Okay? A free media, a free and independent judicial organ. Okay? And requisite economic correlates. There are requisite economic correlates of liberalism. Okay, you know, free, fair, viable election. You know, right? You know, independent of viable press, and so on and so forth. Okay, but when we rely on these criteria, you find that Nigeria is lacking on many aspects of liberal democracy. There are worries about the judicial organ in Nigeria. The judiciary, in my view, has been drawn into the terrain of politics. Okay? And the integrity of the judiciary is often questioned, is often pilloried. You know? You recall that in many instances, the election winners have been determined in courts rather than the ballot box, which is a paradox. You know, in concrete terms, democracy presupposes that the people should determine who is elected and not the court, you know, and so on and so forth. I need to mention that liberal democracy is not peculiar to Nigeria, and it's not rooted in Nigeria's historiography. Okay, liberal democracy is foreign. It's a foreign political culture. It is rooted in the British American political culture. Okay, there's a British variant of liberal democracy. There's an American variant of liberal democracy. There's a French variant. Okay, these are variants of liberal democracy. Okay, the bottom line. The bottom lines of liberal democracy are political liberalism, you know, and economic liberalism. Okay, so how liberal is Nigeria's political space when the media are drawn into political contestations and political struggles? When media becomes politicized, how liberal is a political space, you know, in Nigeria when media are intimidated, okay, and when pressmen are pilloried and arrested, and for holding critical opinions, yeah. And do we have the economic milieu? Do we have a viable or relatively stable economy? Okay, that supports the capacity of the voter to make independent choices, without overtures of the political class through vote buying that you refer to. We do not.
Definitely, that is indeed something to really think about. But now we are joined by Faith Owadeshi, the Executive Director, Center for Transparency and Advocacy, Abuja. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us on Ondo Decide 2024 this time.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Okay, all right. I could see that it seems you're well engaged over there in Ondo, but could you quickly tell us how it has been like over there for the election?
It's been quite peaceful. Since early Akure South, where I have moved around since morning, Akure South and Akure North. Polls opened early. The Beavers is working very well. Of all the places I went to, just one woman the Beavers didn't accredit. She's over 90, and the Beavers couldn't accredit her. It takes about 5 to 10 seconds for Beavers accreditation, and the entire process from accreditation to voting takes between 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, and it's been very calm. Apart from an incident that we witnessed at one of the polling units in Akure South at St. Stephen's Anglican Primary School, where DSS arrested someone that had his car. There were 2 bags of Ghana must go in his car with money, and there was machete in his vehicle. Apart from that incident of that arrest, there has not been any other incident. Voters, the INEC adults have been telling us not to show their ballot paper, because from some of the polling units, as soon as they finish voting, rather than folding their ballot paper the way they were told, they find the way to show ballot paper that they can be read. They have voted for the issue of vote buying in the election. Even though vote buying or trading is not going on in the polling unit, it is going on around the polling unit. So people vote, they find a way to show their vote. Somebody gives them and already get their money. Some of they will bring money for them. Apart from this issue of buying that we have seen, it has been peaceful so far.
Okay, all right, but we learned this morning that EFCC was on ground to sensitize these people about the electorate about staying away from selling their vote. So despite this, I was thinking that okay, there should be enough security present there to try to apprehend these people. But since one is caught, then definitely there will be others. Do you think that security agents there were actually on the lookout to make sure that they were able to apprehend these vote buyers, or it was just a lucky coincidence that they were able to catch those ones?
I think it was a lucky coincidence for the DSS that they caught that particular guy, because you know that we have had this perennial problem of vote buying and what security people do. Now the security people says they can only take action if they are told that something is going wrong in the polling unit by the presiding officer. And so the question is, a presiding officer who is busy, with the electoral process, the election itself, ensuring that people get accredited, ensuring that the documents or the sensitive materials that they're using for election is safe, and ensuring that people, get accredited and cast their vote. It is that same presiding officer that the security agent is saying, this person must come to tell me that there's vote buying going on before we take action. So that was why I was very impressed with what the DSS did today. But within the polling unit, that some of these things are going on, the process starts within the polling unit. The security agents only will act if the presiding agent point out to them that something is happening. I'm beginning to wonder, what is the whole essence of the investigation or the protection that they bring to the polling unit? If a crime, an electoral crime is being committed,
Okay, it seems the network is not stable yet, but we will be joined.
citizens pointed out in the presiding officer, there's nothing you can. Well, so I was just saying that the security, we need to look at the role of the security agents on the polling unit on election day, because crime that is committed on election day is not different from crime that is committed on an ordinary day. When crime is committed on an ordinary day, you just say somebody must have to point it out to the security agent who is there where the crime is happening before you can take action.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that, because it seems that really the security agents do need to do more. And I wonder, do you think that enough sensitization is also done for the people there in terms of not selling vote? Because some people have said that the one that the EFCC was doing this morning was campaign after election. Do you think that perhaps more should have been done, be it political party, be it by state government, or even civil society groups, on really educating people that they should not sell their vote, because this is becoming a regular trend in Nigeria?
A lot has been said. I have been here since Monday, and I have been going, to the market, on the street, and meet people. And when you talk to people about this issue of vote buying, they tell you they are going to sell their votes. In fact, there was a slogan I learned some years ago when I went to observe Ekiti, and it's affected Boko Sobe. Vote can make a pot of soup, and then people are saying before the election they were saying they were going to sell their votes. So until the people stand that they have the power to hire and fire the CEO of electoral processes, there's no way. And then if the security agents are serious about curbing vote, we need to be able to work within the polling units and not those people who are selling votes. Do you know that one of our team, he called. He went to Akure North. A police officer approached him and was asking him, you have nothing us. The person was talking to was an observer. It's that kind of a thing. So if the security agent is going to ask people to them, anything can happen in the polling unit, and nobody said.
Okay, well, this is quite because it seems as if when security agents are there, they are not necessarily there to catch vote buyers or sellers. It seems they're usually just there to security of the place. But if people are so willing to sell their vote, do you think that this might just be a result of weaponized poverty, or the people have just this level of oversaturation and they really don't care who becomes leader?
So I interviewed one that's over 90 that came to vote on the polling unit, and I asked her why she came out to vote. She said because she wants to see a Nigeria, and that she has been voting since she was a young girl. Nigeria gets better. She is hungry, but she wants Nigeria to get better. In her lifetime, she'll be satisfied that she played a role to make it better. That is an old woman that is okay saying that. But it is not the same thing with the younger one. The young ones just feel, oh, let us get this money, whatever it is, this is our share, let us go away with it. You can imagine a woman that is 90 years old, she says she cannot be at home relaxing when such a thing is happening, and she has always voted. You know, you can imagine the kind of inspiration that she's spilling out from her heart and saying all of that. How much would you want to give to such a woman to buy her vote? Now, the younger ones, people who are not of half her age, are just looking forward to who is going to buy. This morning, we were at a particular polling unit where they were setting up. There were calls to some party agents and party faithfuls that were there. They were calling somebody saying, if you don't bring this money today, this place, you will not sleep in your home. So you can imagine the kind of thing that we're seeing, the kind of things that people are doing because of cast their vote. They just want to have this money to justify that they are coming out to cast their vote. It's like you being, you have an inheritance in your father's place, and you don't know that it is an inheritance that you have. So then somebody is coming to give you peanuts to take over that inheritance. When you know that you are the owner 100% of the inheritance, somebody is coming to give you 0.5% of the inheritance, and you are so happy to take it. It's quite unfortunate. We need to continue doing this sensitization. We need to continue talking to people. Everybody must do that. But I don't also think that the strategy that the EFCC is using is working, because the EFCC come into a polling unit with all of the brand EFCC. People already see them coming, and people take dressing. People will take dressing and wait for them to leave, because they're not there from beginning to end. They wait for them to leave and they will continue business as usual. Imagine a situation where you have like 3,000 polling units, over 3,000 polling units in Ondo, and you have at least 1 or 2 EFCC officers posted to patch all the polling units, and they will be there without showing any branding of EFCC or whatever. They will just be there from the beginning to the end. I tell you, when people begin to realize that these EFCC people are here and they have caught 1 or 2 persons, it will drastically bring this issue of vote buying, even though the politicians will keep around and devise another method of selling of buying votes.
Okay, now that it's that, perhaps maybe we could conclude that the reason this is so prominent in Nigeria is because people have lost faith in leadership. So how do we go about mending this? So we start telling the people that they've seen times over and over again, like my guest here in the studio, he said that he doesn't share my optimism when it comes to getting better in Nigeria. But who do we actually address now? Is it the people who their trust has been broken so many times by the people that they could lead them well, or should we be directing this to the people in leadership that perhaps they should do things that would restore the faith that the people are supposed to have in them?
So I share your opinion for this country anyway. I know that somehow it will be better. The thing is, let everybody along the value chain play their role. Just imagine if you go to a particular polling unit and people refuse to take money. There's a report we just got a few minutes ago from a polling unit in Akure North. I think the person was the report is that he was a serving. They gave him an appointment, and he came to that particular polling unit. He wanted to. The people attacked him and said, "If you give us all the money, we are not going to vote for your party. We are not taking any money from you if you have disappointed us." So just imagine that out of over 3,000 polling units you have in Ondo State, in every polling unit, people are saying, "We are not going to collect your money." This is one polling unit. Another polling unit, people are saying, bring that money, or if you don't bring that money, you won't sleep in your house today. You can see the disparity, you can see the way differently people address of these issues. People are working like the other polling unit where they told the man that no matter how much you bring, we're not going to vote for your political party because you people have disappointed us. People will understand that they have the power to hire and fire. People are CEOs, but don't know that they're CEOs. They don't know the power of the PVC that they have. And once somebody is voted in, it is assumed that, oh, this person has gone there. and then we don't support this person, allow the person to live out his or her tenure. There was a time we had some governor who didn't do well in his first tenure, and he wanted to go back for a second tenure. The father said, oh, you know, when your child goes to school, he doesn't do well, he's allowed to repeat. They should allow him to repeat. That's the kind of mentality that we have in our country, especially when we find out that this person is either we're related or with issues of nepotism, tribalism. People just say, oh, it is our turn, let us keep it there, let the person be there. Other people were there, they didn't do well. We are not demanding accountability enough. We are not demanding accountability enough. And so because we're not demanding accountability, there's so much impunity and people are doing whatever they want to do. As soon as the person finishes his or her tenure, after 8 years, another person will come and the story will continue again. So the leaders come from among us, but unfortunately, during election, during campaigning, they present themselves as servants. But as soon as they get elected into office, they turn us to servants and they become the leaders.
Whenever the government is bad, they tell the people that, oh, your vote is your power, you should vote for whoever you want, whoever you feel that is your choice. Now for this particular election, we have 17 political parties. Some will have ECOPs, one ECOP or the other, but yet we see have just two biggest contenders, that is the ruling party and the major opposition party in the country. So how do we tell people that you should vote for your choice when the choice is just so limited? From the 17, we have just 2 that seems to be the most popular. So how do we go about that to actually remedy this issue of having the power to hire and fire when even the ones available to vote for might not necessarily be the choice of the people?
So you realize that even just yesterday, 3 of the candidates actually stepped down for one of the candidates. So bringing it lower the number of people. So that's what it's because you have a system that people think that they can do whatever they want to do and they can get away with it. Until that's why I said the power is with the citizens. The power is with the citizens. The power to decide who should lead and who should not lead will be there. Political parties, and out of all the candidates, there's not even a female, there's one person with disability. The people know that this person can do better, this person will do better, but they will always go for the popular candidate. Right now, they go for the highest bidder, the person who pays them more money. Person who pays them more money for their vote. And you know, the funny thing is that what the people are not realizing is that for every time you collect money, you sell your conscience and you sell the amenities, you sell good governance that you can get for the tenure of that person. They don't realize that you cannot collect this money and come tomorrow and begin to say, I don't have water, I don't have road, I don't have light, I don't have all of this. Because this is more like a return on investment. And you know, people say, oh, votes don't count, whatever it is. If votes don't count in this country, politicians will not pay as much money as they're paying for votes on election day. They are not carrying out too many campaigns. Their campaigns are not as robust as it used to be in the past. Rather, they wait for election day so that they can spend that money on election day. And they are bringing the money on election day to polling units to buy votes. That's to tell you how serious the politicians understand that these votes, people who are coming out to vote. Now you go to communities, some communities, people will go to say, this is the person we want to vote for. If you are not voting for the person, don't come out on election day to vote. And that is happening. Nobody is doing anything about it. Nobody is doing anything about it. So when you are in a community and people are already saying that, the community has already narrowed even your choice of the person that you want to vote for on election day.
Persons living with disability, how do you think INEC have been able to cater for their special needs, even for the election process too? Do you, from your experience, do you think that they've been well catered for?
I think the challenge that they're having is also identifying the people with disability within a polling unit or even a rack. area, registration area. So if INEC says they have provided magnifying glasses, they have also provided braille guide and all of that. If you have 3,000 registered registered voters, for instance, in that polling unit where I said there are 1,077 registered voters, the registered voters in that polling unit have not been disaggregated. There's need for disaggregation of the registered voters, especially persons with disabilities, so that you can determine what kind of disability they have to be able to meet up with the needs. You cannot say there are 1,077 registered voters in a place. You are taking braille guide, there may be just one or two. Find out that there's nobody in that particular place that needs it. People with albinism need magnifying glasses. You may take magnifying glasses and you find out that there's nobody within that polling unit that has issues with albinism. So it's important for us to have disaggregated data, and once we have disaggregated data, it will help to cater for needs of persons with disability within polling unit. The old woman I told you about, that over 90, she's a person with disability. She was using her crutches. You know, people had to help her cross the gutter, put her there, but eventually the beavers didn't credit her, didn't recognize her. You know, and imagine after going through that stress and all of these things, even the security agent was saying, please give Mama a chair, let her sit down while you are doing this to go on. Perhaps if they had statistics that she's a physically challenged person, this is what she needs, perhaps they could have provided that. Maybe going forward, that's what INEC should do, having disaggregated data for persons with disability to be able to properly meet their needs.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. So let me quickly adjust my get here in the studio. So, Dr. Shetolu, what role do you think economic hardship is playing for a particular election to probably make people want to vote for a particular party or not, or probably to even make them sell their vote? What role is economic hardship playing in this?
Well, there are several studies on the relationship between economic crisis, economic hardship, and voting patterns. You know, it does appear that the more prosperous an economy or society is, the more likely the voter, the more likely that the voting pattern will be independent and assertive. On the contrary, the less vibrant an economy is, and the more the economic hardship and economic crisis, the more likely that voting pattern, you know, will reflect those crises. You know, and how do I mean? The loss of values by Nigerians, by some of the Nigerians, and I suppose it's deliberate. It's unfortunate. The political class have mismanaged the economy. The political class have also mismanaged politics, and the economy has been mismanaged to the point that that Nigerians, you know, huge percentage of Nigerians are living below poverty level. The ravaging economic, poverty is such that dehumanizes the individual. You know, it reduces the capacity of the individual, you know, to differentiate what is right and wrong. It reduces the capacity of the individual to insist on what is right and what is ethical. You know, the economic decline and the attendant implications, you know, for the mass of the people is such that politics in several societies in Africa has become characterized by what bias, you know, describe as politics of the belly. Politics of the belly. You know, most of the voters are confronted with politics of the belly and politics of ideas. Though I must mention though that politics of the idea is scanty, but politics of the belly is rather pervasive. You know, the state and the political class have played major role, you know, in pauperizing and dehumanizing the people to the point that it's somewhat easy to manipulate their minds, you know, for political advantage and so on and so forth. It's unfortunate, but for me it is tragic, you know.
Definitely. And now to Faithful Adeshi, what role do you think that economic hardship is also playing in this section?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay, what role do you think economic hardship too is playing in this election? What is the significance of economic hardship in this current election?
Economic hardship is at the center of everything, and I agree completely with the girl in the studio there. It's quite tragic. It's everybody. I told you, the old woman that said she's hungry, she's going to vote. So it is the decider. It is the decider of everything that is happening. So people are looking at the handouts they are going to get for the now. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're not thinking about the 4 years down the line that whoever they vote because of that handout they are getting today will do. So it's the decider of the laws that is happening. People are using that to say what we should do. But you know what they forget is that if they vote their conscience, they don't collect money. There could be a positive turnaround. There could be a positive turnaround because you now have voted somebody who will be more responsive, who will be more accountable, who will look at those things to address the economic hardship that people are going through. So people are just thinking about now. They're not thinking about what happens at the election day, what happens after swearing in, and what happens 4 years down the line.
Okay, all right. So with all what you've witnessed so far, do you think that we would be assured of a peaceful election throughout the day until the close of the day? Do you think we'll be experiencing peaceful election?
But it has been peaceful, even before the election. It has been peaceful, aside from some skirmishes that we had, where some political thugs went to destroy posters of another political party. It has been calm. The people, and I'm asking, what is the problem? People say they don't have money, they can't even go out for campaigns. So people are not really interested in causing any kind of crisis of opponents. People are not interested in how much they are going to get for those ones. But even for those ones who are looking out for how much they are getting, there are still a few people who have come out to say we don't want to collect this money, we want to vote our conscience. You know, so at the end of the day, and usually it is Ondo election. There's so much similarity between Ondo and Edo. Usually during the election period is calm. It is when they go into collation that you begin to see what prices. But from the body language, probably is going to be calm. In a few polling units where the voters were showing their vote ballot paper, those polling units where you have tension because one of the political party gets angry and says we don't want to do this. In fact, there's a report we just had now from one of the polling units where they got angry and actually tore the ballot paper of the voter. I heard that the police there helped to quell the matter. It shouldn't happen. So those are the things that are likely going to cause tension within police, and so far we have not received any report of any violence.
Okay, all right. We thank you so much for joining us today on Ondo Decide 2024. We truly appreciate your input on the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, and that's Faithful Adeshi, the Director, Center for Transparency and Advocacy, Abuja. And now moving on with the guest here in the studio, it seems that vote buying is still going on there, and then we also have issues of, like what she just mentioned now, of some violent voters, which we sincerely hope that that is probably going to stop anytime soon. So the question I asked earlier about the issue of economic achieve having a significance to play in this role. So does it mean that perhaps we've not suffered enough in Nigeria? That is why we are still selling votes, because one would expect that with this level of economic hardship, perhaps people would want to vote for people who they feel like would represent their interest best when they get to power. But if we are still having people, like she said, really selling their votes, so does it mean that perhaps the hardship has not yet hit the spot for us?
You know, the existential reality is more than half of the population in Nigeria are struggling to live on the fringes. So more than half of Nigerians, in my view, I'm afraid, are desperate. You know, are desperate to live, they're desperate to feed, they're desperate to raise their children, and so on and so forth. So what alternative values would you canvass to a man who is hungry, to a man who's on the fed, to a man who's not able to pay the tuition fees of his children and what, and so on and so forth? And the point earlier, I'll reiterate it. You know, the poverty level does, you know, is become a weapon in the hands of the political class. Okay, and it's being used to humiliate, you know, the Nigerian people. It's not a coincidence that vote buying is becoming pervasive. You know, my reading of it is the Nigerian people, to some extent, you know, have been pauperized to the level that, you know, that they lose the capacity, you know, to make critical choices and to differentiate, you know, and so on and so forth. That's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. Okay, I mean, maybe we should paint scenarios. Okay, how do we preach what ought to be to a man who lost his job since 5 years and who has a wife at home and with 3 or 4 kids, who should be in school and he must pay school fees and so on and so forth? How does such man, and who must pay rent and pay medical bills and so, and a politician is making overshot to him, you know, with 100,000 naira bait to vote for a political party or to canvass for votes, and it will be difficult for such individual to insist on ideas and ideals. You know, it could be difficult. The survivalist instinct will likely dictate to the individual to take the money and think about the consequences later. You know, Nigerians have been dragged to nearly subhuman level. You know what it means? 120 million Nigerians lives in severe deprivation. Nigeria, based on World Bank figure, is about 210. 120 is more than half of Nigeria's population. What does that imply? So how do you preach ideals and idealism to a severely deprived, materially deprived person? That is the issue. That is the issue.
Okay, but let us look. Ondo State is a southwestern state, and one of the values of Yoruba people, because we have a large percentage of Yoruba people, in core value of Yoruba people is the Iwa Omoluabi. That is, I'm not sure of the right way to translate that into English language. Yes, so this value is always preaching that whatever the circumstances that you might be going through, you should always, you know, choose the right thing, do the thing that is morally right, do the things that would not bring shame to you or to your family. So do you think that the economic hardship is enough to excuse suspending that trait for a while just to be able to survive?
We're not making excuses. I'm not making excuses. But rather, what I'm doing is to offer, as a social scientist, sociological explanations of why people behave the way they do. What are the social conditioning, objective social conditioning factors? to explain the dispositions, their behavioral leaning, etc., etc. Do you get the point?
Yes, I get that.
You know what? Economic crisis in Nigeria, got to a crescendo, in my view, about 1986. Or about 1986, 87, with the implementation of structural adjustment program. You recall the 1986 anti-SAP riot, 1987 and 1989, and some of us were involved on the streets as students at the University of Lagos. Do you get the point? I need to make the point that the implementation of SAP has social implications, has severe consequences for different aspects of social life in Nigeria. It destroyed the kinship system. Before SAP, a man might not have a job on Lagos Island, for instance, or anywhere in the southwest, and will still raise a family, will still have a wife, and will still have children, and the children will still go to school, because there are relations, who would assist the man, uncles and aunties and so on and so forth. But we lost the kinship system as a result of economic hardship, as a result of neoliberal economic policy, as a result of SAP. The kinship system has been replaced by individualism. Okay? The individual and individualist, attitude has replaced the kinship system. How many uncles and aunties would you meet with to assist pay school fees when he's equally troubled? When he's also struggling to pay, his bills. Okay? Do you get the point? The Omoluabe you refer to and so on and so forth. I don't know. If you do the census of social configurations in the southwest, it's been altered. Isn't it the same southwest where where fraud and internet fraud and Yahoo and the rest of it have become prevalent, and drugism and so on and so forth, and prostituting and all that? Okay? In many parts of the southwest, how many parents still question the children about how many, what percentage of the population in the southwest still celebrates intellect and intellectualism? Though it's intellectualism has receded to the background, and the question of who gets what size of money and what size of wealth and riches and houses is becoming pervasive. An individual is measured by the size of the pocket. Okay? So the point I'm making is there have been value shifts in individuals and societies in the southwest due to Nigeria. What Omolu are you referring to when the man is hungry and he slept for 2 days without food, and when he sleeps on the bridge? I wish you visit the Lagos Island on a Friday night, and you find several people who wait for shops and boutiques to close to sleep at the frontages overnight and so on and so forth. What values would you preach to such individuals? There have been value shifts. In different aspects of our life. Okay? I recall when we were in school as undergraduates and before undergraduates, we were committed to learning, we were committed to reading, we worked hard to get good grades. Not anymore. For your younger students about this time, they cut corners, they resort to buying exams, buying examination questions and all that. There have been several allegations about exam leakage, on the day of exam, before exam, and you'll be worried how the examination question of a sub-regional body gets leaked and so on and so forth. Okay? Yes. You also need to consider the marital dimension to it. The economic hardship is such that marriages are collapsing. Okay, because the breadwinners are no longer able to sustain the families. Okay, and some women are resorting to prostituting to sustain livelihoods. And regrettably and sadly, some mothers introduce the female children into prostituting and so on. How do you explain it? These are shifting values, and these are social contexts, of the economic hardship and economic decline we're referring to. Okay, and the aggregates will have impact on society. and social relations. These are the issues. These are the issues. The issues are huge.
But one wonders, which comes first? Is it the moral decline or the economic decline, or the economic decline brings about the moral decline, or is it the other way around?
The economic decline precedes the moral. It precedes the moral. Okay? Okay, I recall when we were growing, the streets of Lagos, you could leave Mushi, at 7 p.m. and walk to the Lagos Island at midnight and 1 a.m. Okay? And whoever would not be harassed or challenged. The economy was relatively stable. The Lagos residents had jobs. There were factories at Isolo. There were factories at Ikeja. There were textile factories at Aswani and the rest of it. Where are the factories? The factories at Ikeja, at Aswani, Isolo, and the rest of it have been converted into churches. So where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? The jobs are vanishing. These jobs have disappeared. Do you know there are 1,001 people who stay at home and who do not have jobs? Do you know that the economic crisis is such that's produced what we call underground economies? In Lagos and in Nigeria, the underground economy is characterized by counterfeiting of currencies, local and international. It's also characterized by drug and drugism. There's a huge drug cartel and drug market in Lagos. Okay? And there are huge centers, there are huge centers of countercultures, I can refer to on the Lagos Island. It's better imagine when you get to some places like Oluwole and the rest of it on the Lagos Island, what individuals are exposed to and what they do. Okay? And it will appear that the state does not govern those terrains. It will appear that they have alternative governments there. Right? Yeah, the economy precedes the moral. The economy has led to the loss of morality and ethics. It will be difficult to insist on morality and ethics when the individual is underfed and hungry and homeless and without a future. How many Nigerians will possibly predict what will happen tomorrow, in 2 days and 3 days? The health sector is in comatose. Okay, the health sector, the 1,001 people who die daily in the health centers in Nigeria because they do not have the money to buy the drugs or pay for surgeries and so on and so forth. But this deprived Nigerians watch the flamboyant lifestyle of the political class, who throw parties at weekends and who recruit police who ought to be guiding you and I as bodyguards and so on and so forth. So you expect these Nigerians, who are so repressed and who see they are repressed, to be patriotic and to be rational and moral? No, Nigeria has become a morally depraved society. To a large extent, morally depraved. Morally depraved.
Okay, all right. Some people are of the opinion that you mentioned something earlier about individualism and kinship. Some people opine that capitalism is one of the drivers of individualism, because when you operate more as an individual, you are able to, okay, for example, now, if I'm coming into Nigeria and I have friends and family members, I could easily call them that, please come pick me at the airport, I need your help. But when it comes to individualism, I'm always like, I have a ride app on my phone and I could easily order a ride. So would you also believe that one of the main problems that we might be having is capitalism trying to get as much profit as possible from the people, which is making us perhaps forget the values of kinship?
Do you know what? Nigeria was a state-led capitalism in the First Republic. And we still had the kinship system. We had the desperate capitalism, the state-led capitalism. You recall that Nigeria's Fourth Republic included military rulership. Okay, the state was involved in production and distribution and exchange. the state was a major player in the economy, right? Right, it was a major player in the economy. But howbeit state-led capitalism, we had the kinship system. The kinship system is rooted in our sociology as a people, in our social life. You know what it means? It's rooted in our people. Okay, maybe we should explain it in more graphic terms. The kinship system is such that, you know, that your daughter or your son would be my son and my daughter, and I may choose to fund the education of your children. That was the idea in kinship system. But the idea has virtually vanished, because the uncle, you know, who could possibly, who should have offered, or who could have offered, is equally troubled with economic morass. So it's lost the capacity. Do you get the point? Yes, lost the capacity. So they you know, the shift from the kinship system to individualism has not been induced by capitalists, by shift to capitalism. Capitalism has always been there. Okay? There's been a trajectory, however, there's been a shift from state capitalism to market-led capitalism. The point we have now, the trajectory we have at this point in time, is market-led capitalism. And the market-led capitalism is far more individualist than state-led capitalism. That's the point I'm making.
You mentioned the time that probably, I'm guessing, was a better time that we are experiencing now, or when states were major players. Yeah. And looking at Ondo State now, because in fact a lot of people have even said that people should stop pointing fingers at federal government when it comes to issues of lack of food, because government are the ones in charge of the land, and then when it comes to agriculture, food production, we should learn to hold the state government responsible. So now that we are even discussing about a state that they are about to choose their governor that is going to govern them for the next 4 years, if you look at all the vast resources that is available in Ondo State, what do you expect that the next leader should do to be able to harness these resources well, to be able to benefit the people and the indigenous of the state well?
I don't know. Why do you think we should be discussing that? Isn't it premature?
Oh, really?
Maybe we should rather wait that a winner emerges.
Okay, well, you know, this could also be like an advice to them.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, before setting the agenda. Those state is poor, it's a poor state, though endowed with resources. And I need to make the point. If you observe the sociology, there's been a shift. Although when we were undergraduates, you know, 1/3 of the professors at the Obafemi Awolowo University in Ife were either Ondo or Ekiti indigenes, you know. But guess what? The Ondo and Ekiti professors are not being replaced. Yeah? So there's a decline. And most of those professors of Ekiti and Ondo origins are retiring. And quite a number are late, are dead, you know, and are not being substituted. Do you know that there are school dropouts, increasing school dropouts in some of the states in the southwest, including Ondo? Do you know that there's growing incidence of tout and toutism, you know, in Ondo, that was touted as the basin of knowledge? Okay, yeah. Do you know what? The state, the Nigerian state now is such that encourages and empowers and allows idiots and nincompoos, you know, to own sway. I'm reluctant to mention names. Guys who could barely write the names have direct hotlines to governors and presidents and could call directly, you know, and they enjoy privileges of the state. I know some of these guys who write state vehicles and so on and so forth. But these guys are private armies of the political class. Do you get the point I'm making? Yeah. So there's been a shift. You've seen a shift. Do you see a trend in the southwest that, you know, there's been decline in the value and importance attached to education? Oh, there's been a decline, and guys who are in school and not in school to gain knowledge and to you know and to work on the basis of those knowledge. Then school to fill the gap. And so some will rather stay at the gate and get the certificate and walk away if it's that easy. Okay? Yes. You know, I'm a teacher in the university, and when you talk to most of the students in class, they rather not want to be a lecturer, a teacher. In fact, they're not aspiring to be professionals, accountants and the rest of it. Right. They want to be dancers, and you know, and some will tell you they want to get rich. How they do not know, and the rest of it. These are shifts in values that we ought to be worried about, and it's pervasive. It cuts across everywhere. How do you explain it on a Monday morning, and you walk on the street of Akure or Abeokuta or Ibadan, and you find thousands of young energetic men who should be on the jobs, who are not on the jobs, who are sitting idle, and you know, and you do not have a future, and you are not sure what will happen tomorrow. What would you expect of such individuals? What do you think will happen to their values? Do you know, in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Yemen, and the rest of it, there have been instances, you know, I was in the Middle East, and on the morning, on the work day, you find hundreds of thousands of young men, you know, walking to the workplaces and factories and the rest of it. Yeah, they're going to work. Hundreds of thousands. They walk. You know, yeah. We do not have such happening anymore in Nigeria. We had it in the 70s. Okay? When the traffic will shift to Isolo, to Ikeja Industrial Estate and the rest of it, the industrial parks have disappeared. Okay? Yes. So the young men, you know, have been betrayed by the state. The state that ought to care, you know, ought to care for the young population, you know, has lost its conscience, and it doesn't matter if the individual dies or lives. So the individuals become desperate, and even if, you know, whoever goes to school, it's meant to fill a gap and to find some other means.
But do you think the reason might be a decline in people losing wanting to go to school might be because of this digital age? Because some people would even come up with logical argument that you do not need a certificate to be able to make it in life. They would even cite example of up to 10 prominent people who are school dropouts, and then they are one of the richest people that we have in the world right now. Do you think, and also in this digital age, that whatever it is that one could learn in school for 5 years, you could learn it on your device that is connected to the internet in like 6 months or so? Do you think that that might also be the reason why a lot of people are not so embracing of education, but rather they are more focused on entrepreneurship, which has promises of that wealth that they going to school for 4-6 years might not necessarily get them?
But do you know what? Yeah, I appreciate your point. Yeah, but do you know what? If Nigeria's economy were growing, if there were jobs, and education would likely be relevant and be meaningful, you know. The other problem is, what type of education do Nigerians get? How does a man who reads archaeology expect to get a job in the petroleum sector, on the oil and gas sector, etc., etc.? You know, there's a problem there. There's a problem there. Well, I'm also worried about the values of the young population. You know, most of the young populations aspire to be like you know, a politician who cuts corners, who is dishonest, and who would prefer to get rich anyhow, you know, no matter what, etc., etc. Yeah, I'm afraid these are seemingly dominant values. These are seemingly dominant values. Do you know what? the emerging economies in the world, China, Malaysia, South Korea, Singapore, etc., imagine as such on the basis of a strong state. The state ought to play a major and superintendent role, in defining development trajectories, development patterns, and so on and so forth. Our state is not playing such a role. Our state has abandoned, our development choices to the IMF and World Bank, and we live at the mercy of international finance institutions and creditor nations and countries. We live at the mercies of foreign countries, who define how we should live. These are the tragedies. These are the worries. These are my worries.
Okay, all right. So now, when we are talking about youth being jobless or without ambition, right now Nigeria is facing some sort of, should I say, acute food insecurity. Debatable. Some people could say it is actually worse than it is, and some people would say the reason this has come to be is because people have stopped going to farms, especially in southwestern Nigeria. Though it could be arguable that the reason people are not going to farms is because of insecurity, but we also have places in southwest that the rate of insecurity, banditry is not comparable to what we have in northern Nigeria, and then they are still producing, and it's even from there that they bring a lot of things that we are consuming in southwestern Nigeria. So now, is it not the responsibility of the state to, or perhaps even the people, because they say necessity is the mother of invention, perhaps a lot of youth that we have, maybe time to embrace agriculture, go back to farm. Thankfully, Ondo State is one of, when it comes to cocoa pods, they are one of the largest producers in Nigeria. So is it not time for us to perhaps encourage people to embrace farming and then, be producers? Because that is that is what is said to be one of our problems in Nigeria. We are not a producing nation, we are more of a consuming nation.
How do we encourage individuals to go into farming? Would they farm with hoes and cutlasses?
It's a start.
Yes, the state ought to play a major interventionist role, in such sector, and do you know what? We need to demystify the seemingly dominant notion that most of the people need to get involved in agriculture, for the country to be self-sufficient. No, we probably need less than 0.01% of the population, to achieve food sufficiency, provided it's agribusiness. We're not. I'm not working on the assumption that the sector would thrive on peasant farming. It has to be commercial. It has to be large scale. It has to be mechanized, and so on and so forth. What percentage of Americans feed the whole of North America? What percentage? And the instances America destroys some of its surpluses. Yeah, it destroys some of its surpluses or some of its surpluses. Yeah. So you know what? It's not sufficient to ask you to get into agriculture and the rest of it. Some percentages, a little percentage are into it, but a very little percentage are discouraged because the state does not exist to support, to assist, and to offer leadership, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay, how many youths could afford the price of the tractor? Okay, yeah, how many could? How many could? You recall in the First Republic, we had farm estates in the southwest, particularly southwest Nigeria, which were created by under the premiership of late Chief of Awolowo. Yeah. That was a scheme. That was a brilliant idea, and that catapulted the western region to playing a major exporting role as leading exporter of cocoa in the global cocoa market, etc., etc. So that explains the point I made earlier that the state ought to be involved. Yes, and the state ought to play a leading role. It is not playing a leading role. We're told that the state, should withdraw for the market, but I'm afraid, for a developing economy such as Nigeria, the states must play a leading role, to resolve the question of underdevelopment.
Okay, all right. So if we are to look at one of the reasons that a lot of youth too are not so much embracing of education is because it does not necessarily cater to the needs. It does not, Nigerian education, that is, to the present day needs, the reality of needs that we have now. We have technology is so advanced. A lot of people are going more for coding. Coding is something you could learn in about 6 months or a year without having a university degree, and then you could be making lots of money. That is an instance. So the reason I'm even talking about this is the issue of BVAS. Now back to the election, saying some people are complaining that BVAS is not working in their polling unit, and then they were criticizing the accreditation process, and they were suggesting manual accreditation instead of the bimodal voter accreditation system. If we are to look at this now, according to INEC chairman, this BVAS is something that was developed by Nigerians. It is something brilliant. So we could say that, okay, fine, Nigerian youth are actually working. They are not as jobless as it seems to be the popular opinion. So now, if we are talking about the use of technology for voting, how far do you think we could still take it? Because it seems like this BVAS is just the very beginning.
Well, do you know my worry? And I mentioned it at the outset. That it's quite easy for the Independent Electoral Commission to create a picture that is well prepared, and there wouldn't be problems, etc., etc. But it gets to be a different ball game when the election begins. Okay, well, the introduction of BVAS, fine, brilliant. Okay. But then, how often does it work? You recall the 2023 elections, in many instances where BVAS did not work, yes, the presiding officers had to resort to manual accreditation to avoid denying, those who were registered voting and so on and so forth. Okay? You'll also recall the controversies about the 2023 elections, and the Supreme Court ruled in an instance that the electoral body was not bound, was not bound to use, the
BVAS?
No, not the BVAS. What was the
IREF?
The IREF was not bound to use the IREF as collation model. That it wasn't bound in law. That it was optional and so on and so forth. That's, I'm afraid, offer the escape route, for the electoral body. Otherwise, the electoral body had promised pre-election, pre-elections, that the elections, will be posted on IREF, in prime time, and that every Nigerian would have access to it, and the election will be transparent to that extent, and so on and so forth. Yeah, but somewhere along the line, the system was shot, and we were told by the court, surprisingly, that the electoral body was not bound by it, was not bound by what it promised. That for me was contradictory.
Okay, all right.
In nature.
Okay, let's quickly go on a break. Let's go see this report, and when we come back in the studio, we will be giving you more analysis. Just stay with us.
So far, we've heard about pockets of violence around the state, but we're not hearing mass violence. We've heard issues with BVAS, but we've told our people if the BVAS is not working, INEC says it has a backup plan. So ask them to bring new BVAS to your station. The people are coming out to vote. The law enforcement is doing fairly well enough. In some places they are aiding see and buy, and everywhere we found them we are protesting and they're making corrections. So on the whole, I think it's too early to call, but fairly decent, is what I would say. And if we have a decent election in Ondo State, there's no question about it that the people will vote ZLP, and I'll be the next governor.
We are glad to have you back. If you are just joining us, this is Ondo the Side 20. Our correspondent who is joining us live from Ondo State on standby to bring us up to date on what's going on there. Our correspondent Kuleojo. Hello, good afternoon. Could you please bring us up to date on what's going on at your end over there in Ondo State?
Thank you very much, Rebami, for having me at this time. You recall the last time you linked up with me, I told you I was in Ondo South. Ondo South. From that point, I moved to Ondo North, the heart of Ondo town itself. And my journey down from Ondo South down to Ondo North revealed a turnout and an impressive turnout of voters along my way, and then also massive deployment of security agencies on the highway, several road blocks from my way direct from Ondo South to Ondo North, several road blocks on my way. And at each of these blocks, the proper check-in were being conducted by both officers of the Nigerian Army, officers of Nigerian Police Force, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, among others. So it was a massive deployment. And then when I got to Ondo town itself, also voters turnout were impressive, and they were conducting themselves in line with the dictator of the electoral act. Who were voting, and people were oddly in all the polling units I visited. Same situation was at hand. Deployment of men of Nigerian Army, Nigerian Police Force, Civil Defense, and they even at the busy Lagos, busy Benin road, it was deserted as expected. But we have officers of the Nigerian Police Force on ground to do proper checking of our vehicle passing along. So all along from my journey from Ondo South to Ondo North, it's been impressive turnout of voters. Although some of the polling units, we have a handful of voters ready to perform their civic duties, while others have perform their civic duties.
We had stories about issues of vote buying in some parts of Ondo State. So where you visited, because that's Akure North and South, did you hear of anything like vote buying at your end over there?
Thank you very much for that. There were reports of vote precisely at the ward where the former governor of Ondo State, Olusegun Mimiko, where he performed his civic duties. There were reports of the people are trying to induce voters, but the security operative then learned they've doused the tension. I had the report, but physically I didn't see any. But I had the report that there were cases on inducement before I arrived there. Also a report of people moving away of a particular vehicle that moved with cash was given to us, but we couldn't verify to know exactly what the content of that vehicle. You know, we're not the security men, we can't be allowed to check what is in that, but we've had a report that there are few vehicles have been designated that are roving around distributing cash to people in Ondo town. But I couldn't verify any of this. We have the report of such incidents.
All right. When it comes to issue of beavers, reports have been emerging online where some people said that the beavers that were given to their polling unit was not working, and then they had to use the manual accreditation. Has that also been the situation at your end over there, or is just peculiar to few places?
Also, at the polling unit of the governorship candidate of Zenith Labour Party, there were cases of malfunctioning of beavers, which also he confirmed, and we learned that the officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, they came to the rescue. They changed some of the beavers that were not malfunctioning and replaced them with a new one, which at that point pick up the activities on ground. And then to confirm that, we have the report that there are malfunctioning of some of the beavers, but the officials of the Electoral Commission, they came to the rescue and they changed those beavers and give them a new one to carry on with the activities.
Apart from the issues of the beavers malfunctioning and the INEC officials arriving a little late towards an polling unit, do these people seem pleased with the work INEC has done for this Ondo state election?
Thank you very much for that question. Right from Ondo South to Ondo North, most of the voters I spoke with, they commended INEC for a job well done so far. Precisely in Ondo town, some of the voters there, they rated the performance of INEC in today's election better than what they've been doing in the past. So it was an indication that they were satisfied with their deployment, the arrival of the materials, the performance of the polling officials, among others. So according to some of the voters, INEC has done so far so good for INEC in terms of rating for this election.
Okay, all right. So back to the issue of vote buying. We know that the IGP set up established electoral offences desk to try people who are caught for things like this. But apart from that, when it comes to issue of vote buying, the security there seem to be on the watch out to catch these people, or it was just a lucky coincidence that they saw some people there that were selling and buying votes and then they apprehended them? Were they making effort to actually catch vote sellers and buyers?
Actually, at Ward 5, Unit 2, NEPA in Akure South this morning, I caught up with some officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission where they were addressing some of their voters on the need to stay away from vote buying and selling. And with that was a signal that anyone caught will be punished according to law as stated by the Inspector General of Police yesterday in his address to journalists. So today, by and large, officials of Independent National Electoral Commission, they were on ground to kind of apprehend those that violate that law. And also there was a video online where somewhere in Akure South of some members of the police of a notable political party caught with cash, and the process of distributing those cash, they were nabbed, and I learned they've been arrested. But to my information, I've not been able to verify how true that video clear, how true the information is. But with what plays out today, we should expect that some from violators will have been caught by both the security agencies and officials of the independent national officials of Economic and Financial Crime Commission.
We thank you so much for bringing us up to date with what's going on at your end over there. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do stay safe.
Thank you for having me at this time.
All right, that's our correspondent Kolojo, who joined us live from Ondo State. So when it comes to this issue of vote buying and selling, some people have advocated for use of e-voting to curb instances like this. Do you think the e-voting, that's electronic voting? Yes. Okay. So do you think that Nigeria too is close to that step? Perhaps it's something that we could do, but we are just not looking at the possibility, because some people have cited instances of low literacy rate in all of Nigeria. But is this something you see that is achievable and perhaps could even help curb the issue of vote buying?
Well, it's unlikely too soon in Nigeria. E-voting on massive scale. No, it's unlikely. You know, you cited literacy level, which is a major factor. The other issue is how reliable will the technology be? That the fear that the technology could be hijacked. You know, it could be hijacked, it could be hacked, and so on and so forth. Those fears exist, and those fears are real in terms of Nigeria's realities. I'm afraid we're far from e-voting, and e-voting will not likely be the solution to election crisis in Nigeria. We need to consider the causative factors. What are the causative factors for rigging? Why would the politicians choose to rig? Why would the politician choose to buy votes? Why would the politician choose to stop ballot boxes? Why would the politician choose to snatch ballot papers? Okay? Responses to this question will assist to offer solutions. You know? Yeah. You know, the bottom line is that the political class is desperate to assume political power, to control political power. And why is the political class desperate? The political class is desperate because the access to state structures guarantees, you know, economic wealth and economic riches. You know, yeah, that's it. You know, the point I'm making is we should make the states and political office less attractive economically. Okay, that for me would be major and fundamental to discouraging vote buying and desperation that the political class exhibits, and so on and so forth. We're not addressing the fundamentals, and we should address the major and the underpinnings. You know, we're not addressing the underpinnings of this malfeasance. You know, it's a malfeasance, isn't it? It's a malfeasance. Yeah, we're not addressing the causative factors. We should address the causative factor. You know, the state in Nigeria lacks autonomy. You know, I guess you're familiar with the concept of the hijacked state. It does appear the state, you know, in fact, there's this common refrain that the state has hijacked INEC. Okay, yeah. So the question is INEC hijacked by the state? And where it is hijacked, what would be the consequences for politics and democracy in Nigeria? Though it is better imagine, you know, by any observer, it is better imagine what would happen. You know, it does appear in concrete terms that the Nigerian state has been hijacked. The question is who has hijacked the state. You can speculate on that.
Okay, when you talked about making political offices less attractive, that perhaps maybe that might just encourage people with better intentions to get there, but some people have said that might also lead to more problem, because if it is not so attractive and what they are earning there is not enough to really cater for their needs, it could probably come out in this way, that they would have to be doing other jobs to balance their daily needs, especially for that of their families and for people around them. Because the trend in Nigeria is once you become a political office holder, people flock to you. They see the person as the messiah, someone who is going to be there to solve all their problems, which might not really be so because of, well, present day realities. But if we are not making the seat as attractive as it could be, do you not think that that could probably take away concentration from actually focusing on these offices that they are holding, or could that not even drive them into more clever means of making money?
Well, my response would be this. I recall Nigeria's First Republic was characterized by part-time representation. Okay, so we had in the First Republic, though the First Republic collapsed, but I still prefer part-time legislation, for instance. Yeah, the cost of government, not the cost of governance now, because we should differentiate the cost of government and governance. The cost of government in terms of the cost of maintaining those institutions are huge. Okay, and two, where it becomes part-time, the presumption is whoever would be contesting, you know, would have a job. Is either a professional and, you know, in different areas, will have a occupation and the rest of it, whoever could fall back. And the presumption is whoever has a job, whoever has a vocation, who has a profession, you know, will likely insist on honor and integrity, and will less likely be vulnerable to financial inducement and manipulation and so on and so forth. So these are the presumptions. So I do not agree that part-time legislation would be destructive. No, you wouldn't. No, the question is, how many times do members of the Senate or the House of Reps in Nigeria sit in a legislative year? If you visit the House of Reps or Senate, you know, on a regular basis, most of the seats are vacant. Or what's the word for it? Most of the seats are unoccupied or would be unoccupied. You should bear in mind that the Senate and the House of Reps are full-time membership.
Yes.
So where do the full-time members go? Where do they go? Where are they when the Senate and the House of Reps are sitting? They're either in Dubai or Qatar or US or Europe doing businesses.
Or their committees actually carrying out investigations. There are aspects of the legislative agenda for committee business. I'm referring to plenaries. You know, most of the time the plenaries are scantily populated. You know, scantily populated, and there's no rule of Senate or the House of Reps that insists that a member of the Senate or House of Reps must attend for XYZ number of times. You know, whoever attends and whoever did not will still get allowances and other inconveniences and so on and so forth. You know, the point I'm making is, you know, we should encourage professionals. We should encourage politicians with vocation. You know, we should encourage politicians with tools who have acquired tools with trade to get into the parliament. Okay, my opinion is these categories of politicians would likely show integrity, would likely show commitment, and would likely show commitment to legislation, and would likely show commitment to the state and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm not asking that the legislation should be popularized, you know, but there's a minimum. You know, the members of parliament should be paid. What the members of Senate and House of Reps earn at this point in time, you know, it's outrageous and anti-people. Yeah, it's outrageous. Okay, how does a member of Senate explain, you know, 14 million? But would you not say leadership is like a full-time job?
What did you say?
Would you not say leadership is like a full-time job?
What leadership?
Well, it is a position leading a constituency, so to leader.
Yeah, whoever is a leader. But I asked the question earlier, you know, what is the legislative calendar like? You know, there are 365 days in a year. The legislature, the Senate sits for less than 170 days, you know, including committee members of Senate and House of Reps. I tell you, are not there. They're not there. They're doing private businesses and they're traveling to Europe and Middle East and all that to do private businesses. Yeah, knowing full well that, you know, doesn't matter if whoever is there or not and blah blah blah. But you find that the Senate or House of Reps would be fully populated when the president is presenting an appropriation bill, or when there are major issues, you know, to discuss and so on and so forth.
So that the election in Ondo State is probably nearing its end. I think from any time now, the election in some polling units and ward would probably be stopped, and then they would be moved on to the next stage, which I'm sure a lot of Ondo people would be really anticipating. How would you rate the conduct of this election? Let's start from the part of INEC. How would you score INEC so far?
I do not have sufficient information to assess INEC or to comment on the conduct. I'm a social scientist.
Okay, well, with what our correspondents and everything have said.
The reporters, there are 18 local governments in Ondo State. And the reporters have been restricted to Ondo North, Ondo South. They kept mentioning Ondo North, Ondo South, you know. And nobody mentioned the 3 local governments or 4 in Akoko. And nobody mentioned Okitikupa, right? And nobody mentioned the largest Ondo, you know, the Ondo River Rhine. Okay? Yes, the reporters are talked about voting, you know, and the security component in Ondo Central and Akure. What happened in Owo?
Yeah, but what about the election?
What happened in Ileoluji and the rest?
What
of
about the
It's
election
not
observers who had eyes and ears like in all local government areas?
Election observers. Well, I wouldn't count on them. How many election observers did we listen to? And where were they? Yes, it wasn't in rural Ondo, you know. Yes, I mean, I would need the views of 10 or more, you know,
make a point.
Yeah, to make informed opinion, and the 10 or more should have been to third of the local governments in Ondo. Aren't there 18 local governments in Ondo? There are. Yeah, would such submissions be? Would be far less reliable and far less scientific. So that's it. It's too early, you know. I would doubt that some other time
so far
reporters will be posted to at least half of the local governments, provided you had the resources to fund the project. Yes.
Okay, well, but so far still with the information that we've learned, should I say, are you pleased with what you've heard so far?
Well, I'd rather be cautious. You know, because it's become a pattern in Nigeria, and I do not know why the reporters are dragging us into this into a regime of sorts. Oh, the election is pleasant, is peaceful, is whatever. When it's 7, when it's 8, when it's midnight, you know, yeah, there will be different stories and so on and so forth. I wouldn't say unpleasant. No, I wouldn't commit myself. It's too early to assert that I'm pleasant. It's too early. I have very very little information to make such comments. No. I'd rather be cautious. I'd rather wait. You know, I'd rather wait. Maybe if you choose to continue the program tomorrow, and when I'm invited, maybe I'll be better informed.
Definitely, the program is going to continue tomorrow.
I could rely to information elsewhere to make my judgments about the Ondo election.
Okay.
It's rather premature. All
right, but Dr. Sheto, do have faith in Nigeria. Nigeria is going to be great. Do have faith in the country. So this is where we'll be drawing the curtain today on Ondo Decides 2024. We thank you for staying with us from the beginning to the very end. But do not worry, the analysis is still going to continue tomorrow, and then we hope that things would continue. So far we've heard that things were peaceful, but from the reports we've gathered so far, things seem to be peaceful and the people seem to be content, apart from some local government area like Ofoso, the one that our correspondent mentioned, where there was lack of election